Faith Fulfilled, Book 2, The Cursed Diamonds, Chapter 5, The Tale of the Twins.
Kyle, hurry up! Those fruit stands aren't going to be unguarded forever.
I'm coming.
Kyle said, exasperated, as he turned his dragging walk to a slow jog. The two twins ran down the alleyway toward the main market area, making sure to stay hidden from the bustling villagers traveling around.
Shh! We actually have to get some food this time, so stay quiet.
Ebony Whisper yells and slowly creeps behind one of the stands. Kyle closely follows behind, trying to be as quiet as possible. He reaches the side of his twin and takes his empty sack from his back. Ebony reaches up and carefully grabs a few apples and slices of watermelon. Handing them over to Kyle, he places them into the bag and slings it over his shoulder.
Now come on, we gotta get out of here.
Kyle says, starting to make his way toward the alleyway.
No, wait. We have to get something other than fruit.
We can't risk it. Now come on, Ebony, before we get caught.
You go on ahead. I'm going to try and get some bread rolls.
Ebony quickly says as she travels into a different alleyway.
Ebony, wait!
Kyle follows her into the alley.
I told you to go back.
I'm not leaving you. What if something happens?
Nothing is going to happen. I haven't been caught since we were 7.
Still, we can never be too careful.
Kyle reprimands and follows after her as the two make their way toward the bakery. Once they get to the back entrance, Ebony makes a motion for Kyle to stop.
I'm going to sneak in through the front and just grab a couple of rolls to hide in my pockets. I'll grab as much as I can, but if I get caught, I want you to run like hell. Don't come after me, got it?
Ebony searches Kyle's eyes to see what he understood.
I can't just...
Just promise me.
Okay, I promise, but you better come back.
You know I always do. Luck has always been on my side.
Ebony teases and then makes her way into the front of the bakery.
Let's hope your luck stays true.
Kyle mutters and hides further into the alleyway. As Ebony finds her way on the street by the entrance of the bakery, she watches villagers walk by doing their day-to-day shopping. After watching quite a few people go into the bakery, Ebony flows smoothly into the crowd and through the doorway. Once inside, she begins to scan the shelves, checking where the rolls are. As soon as she spotted them, she made a beeline through the people walking around the bakery and instantly grabbed a hold of a roll, but not before another villager grabbed a roll from the same pile. Ebony just smiles and pretends to examine the bread roll and look at the options on the shelf. The villager walks away without giving her a second glance. As soon as the coast seemed clear, she began to pile as many pieces, creating a small pocket to hold them all with her shirt. She slowly starts to make her way toward the door when a gruff voice shouts out,
"Hey, young lady! What do you think you're doing?"
Oh, nothing, sir. I was just browsing, but you don't have what I'm craving, so I'll be on my way.
Then what's in your shirt?
What? You've never seen a pregnant teenager before?
Ebony retorts, showing her rounded shirt.
Oh, sorry. Be on your way then. Next customer, please!
The bustle of the bakery slowly fades out of Ebony's senses, and she finds herself back in the alleyway with Kyle.
Are you okay? Did anyone see you?
Kyle rambles as he drags his sister further into the protection of the shadows.
I'm fine, jeez. You act like one of those village parents.
Well, did you get any? I swear to not if you just risk going out there to get nothing.
Calm down. Here, open up the bag so I can stop holding these.
Kyle opens the tattered bag and watches her pour out the rolls upon rolls of bread inside.
Did you just swipe the whole shelf? What were you thinking, Ebony? This is way too much. What if someone questions you?
Well, someone did question me, but I handled it. Come on, let's get out of here before the baker realizes I gave birth to a food baby.
Ebony says, running into the alleyway.
Wait, what? Oh wait up!
Kyle yells back, tying the bag up again and running after her. As night begins to fall on the town, the two twins finally make their way back from the marketplace and to their home in the woods.
You guys can come out now. It's just Ebony and I.
Kyle calls out into the woods. Slowly, small heads began to peek out from behind the trees and come toward the two twins. Nearly 12 kids, ranging from 5 to 10 years old, all orphaned, and looked down upon by most of the town.
Who's hungry?
Ebony shouts. Kyle sets down a towel and places all the food down onto it.
Can someone get me one of the cleaner towels?
Kyle asks, and a 5-year-old boy runs off and pushes his way to the front, handing Kyle a tattered cloth. Kyle sets it on the ground, then tips back the bag, dumping all the contents out onto the towel. The small crowd erupts into small cheers and gasps while others try making a grab for the food.
Are we forgetting our manners?
Ebony asks jokingly, glaring down at the children grabbing for the bread. A chorus of thank yous echoes through the forest, as large smiles crack across their dirt-caked faces.
Dig in, you goofballs.
Before the food gets dogpiled, Kyle manages to grab 4 pieces of bread and an apple for the 2 of them. The children celebrate as if this was their once-a-year festival, dancing around while eating their rolls. Once the twins made sure that everyone got their portions, they grabbed the bag and made their way to the small makeshift tent of thrown-up clothes and blankets.
I really wish we could give them more.
Kyle breaks the silence the 2 created while they were eating.
Yeah, I wish we could too, but this is all we can do.
The 2 of them sit in comfortable silence as they munch down on their food. The stars begin to shine overhead, and the children begin to turn over into their makeshift homes to fall asleep for the night.
I can take first watch. You go ahead and get some sleep.
Kyle said, standing up and grabbing a slightly sharpened stick.
Alright, but as soon as the moon hits the peak, you wake me up so you can rest too.
Ebony scolds as she rolls over on the not-so-soft towel.
Yeah, I got it.
Ebony falls fast asleep, leaving Kyle alone in the night. Kyle at least thought he was completely alone. Lurking along in the trees were zombies staggering around, looking for their next meal. Kyle found himself relating to the zombies, always hiding in the darkness, and always hungry. In his distracted thoughts, Kyle didn't notice a zombie slowly sneaking up on one of the orphans' tents.
It was not until a twig snapped and the gurgling of the zombie's voice did Kyle realize, and turned to see the zombie tottering toward a pile of sleeping children, tossing in their small little dreams. Sprinting over, he's able to grab the zombie by the neck and pull him to the ground, and then plunge the sharpened stick into its chest. When Kyle looks up, he makes eye contact with one of the orphans, who had woken from the sound of the zombie approaching.
You're okay now. Go back to sleep.
Kyle flashes a loving smile down to the young boy, and is given a small smile and nod in return. The orphan boy then falls back asleep alongside the others. Kyle goes back on his patrol, paying close attention to the edges so that no zombies can sneak up again. Soon enough, the moon had been pulled to its peak, and true to his word, he gently shakes Ebony awake. She shoots up immediately, startled, but calms when she makes eye contact with her brother. She takes out his outstretched hand and pulls herself from the ground.
Anything happened while I was out?
Nothing too eventful tonight, it seems. Just a couple of straggling zombies.
Alright, now get some sleep, you big doof.
Kyle nods and falls asleep instantly. After checking to make sure he was fast asleep, Ebony climbs up into a tree and finds a comfortable seated position. From this branch, she is able to observe the entire perimeter of their small camp, some of the gleaming lights from the village, and most importantly, she can appreciate the stars. The stars reminded Ebony of a simpler time, when she didn't have to be the parent and could just climb trees and just get lost in the sky, trying to count all of the stars. Ebony looks up into the sky with a soft smile, remembering all the fun games she and Kyle had played, and how easy things used to be. Ebony is snapped back into her reality when she hears a crunching of leaves, whipping away the single tear that had fallen on her face. She scans the forest. Finding the zombie on the opposite side of the camp, she makes a successful jump down to the ground and runs at the zombie, killing it instantly. Breathing heavy, she looks down at the corpse that now lays down in the middle of the camp. Letting out a sigh, she begins to drag the body out of the camp to shield the children from seeing it in the morning. As soon as she gets the zombie out of the camp, she hears a large shout in the distance.
That's near our tent.
Ebony thinks before she bolts toward the other side of the camp, frantically searching for who shouted and what caused it. As she reaches the other side, she finds her brother on the ground, wildly kicking at a zombie. He was clearly injured on his right arm and was struggling to keep the zombie away. Quickly, Ebony attacks the zombie from behind and disposes of it. She comes running back to Kyle and crouches down to his level.
Are you okay? How bad is it?
It's fine, Ebony.
No, it's not fine. You're bleeding. You could get infected.
Ebony, calm down. I'm okay, really.
Ebony runs off from their tents and grabs some of the cleaner towels. The commotion of Kyle being attacked had woken the rest of the orphans, and they all began to gather around.
You guys stay here and make sure Kyle is okay. I'll be right back.
Ebony calls back as she runs off toward the town. It was just breaking morning, so no one was up and walking around. Ebony makes a direct path toward the wheels near the center of the town. Quick with her work, she draws out the bucket of water and furiously scrubs the mud-stained towels, trying to make it as clean as possible. Once satisfied with how clean they were, she begins to make her way back toward the camp. On her way out of town, she sees a building with a small red plus near the entrance.
I need to come back into town and get some medicine. What if Kyle gets sick? Or worse?
With this final thought, Ebony sprints back into the forest. Breaking into the clearing, Ebony shuffles her through the crowd of children and begins to clean and bandage Kyle's arm.
Ebony,
I swear to not, Kyle. If you say you're fine one more time, I'll break your fingers.
Okay, I won't say it.
Kyle looks down at his freshly bandaged arm.
Thanks, Ebony.
That's what family is for. Now, I want you to stay here for the rest of the day.
What? No, I can't just sit here and do nothing.
You can and you will. You are not going to do anything until you are healed up.
But what about the food runs? Or water?
We'll be fine. I'll just bring Samantha or Joey with me if I need help. They're going to have to learn how to do this stuff sooner or later.
Alright then. But if things start spiraling out of control, I'm coming to help.
Okay, but you have to keep me updated on how you're feeling. If you start feeling worse, let me know right away. Got it?
Yeah, fine, I will.
Perfect.
Ebony then turns to the rest of the kids.
Let's get moving, people. We're wasting daylight.
The camp suddenly comes to life. Some are folding up the blankets while others are using handmade brooms to sweep away some dirt and leaves. Ebony stands at the head of the camp and smiles. Things are going to be fine. Things then turned to the worse. Kyle's condition became worse. He was always exhausted or felt drained and had to lay down during many parts of the day. The other children began to become worried alongside Ebony. 2 days after Kyle had gotten worse, Ebony had broke. She told Joey and Samantha that they were in charge, and tasked them with taking care of everyone. She then took her bag and went off into the deserted alleyways of the town. Taking a crouched position, Ebony waited and watched people go by. There were too many for her to make a move on the pharmacy, so she waited. Right near the alleyway were two men sitting and having a chat over some warm hot chocolate.
Have you been hearing the rumors going around town? About the secret treasure? Yeah, I've heard the news buzzing across town. Everyone knows it's just a myth. We live in a world of legacy holders. A treasure like this can't be that far off. Really now? A treasure that can heal you to the point of immortality? Pfft, not likely. You just don't believe. I heard a couple of brave guards are going to try and check out the cave right outside of town that has been rumored to have the treasure tucked away inside. They leave during first light tomorrow. Good for them. Let the sad fools fall from chasing their little dreams. I'm rather content with my small shop and gold pieces. To each their own.
Ebony wanted to learn more about this mysterious treasure she overheard them talking about. But soon the two men walked away, and the crowds had mostly cleared away. Quickly, sneaking out of the alleyways, she makes her way into the pharmacy. The door hits the bell, and it echoes through the near-empty store. Staying unnoticed by the doctor, Ebony makes her way over to a side wall lined with different remedies and potions, all with neat little labels written under them. She carefully reaches forward and grabs the bottle. Immediately, a redstone alarm starts blurring, and everyone's attention is drawn toward Ebony. Dropping the bottle in her startled state, she bolts toward the exit only to see it blocked off by one of the guards. Backing away before they can grab her, she does a scan of a different escape route. The front door was blocked. The windows were too high to reach, and now that everyone saw her, they would all be trying to prevent her from getting out. The only way out now was through the back door, guarded by the doctor.
It's never easy coming into town, is it?
Ebony mutters to herself as she rolls back her sleeves a bit and starts her run towards the back. She slides under the people's grasps and jumps off the wall to go around some more. Moving as fast as she could, she manages to almost get to the back door before her left foot is grabbed and she falls to the floor with a loud crash. Looking back, she sees the doctor had grabbed her foot before she could make her escape. There were now 4 guards making their way toward Ebony and the doctor, so she acted quickly. She takes off her shoes and launches it from her foot at the doctor's face. He falls back away from her, allowing her the time to grab her shoe and burst through the back door. Jumping the small steps, she hops on one foot, putting her shoe on, nearly falling over. Once on, she goes into a full sprint away from the city with an empty bag and a new idea. Ebony reaches the camp in record time, but decides not to stay long. She needed to beat the other guards to the treasure. That was the only way she was going to help Kyle get better. After doing a quick checkup on the camp and grabbing a few supplies, she starts to journey into the forest in search of the cave. She trudged along the same-looking trees for what seemed like hours, until she found a giant opening in the ground. The only warning before her before she fell in was a single torch burning dimly. Breaking the torch off from the fence it had been attached to, she starts to make her descent down into the cave. First she makes a left, then a right, then down, more and more. The cave never seemed to end.
This is pointless. I might as well be trying to steal from the pharmacy again. This is a waste of mine and Kyle's time.
Having thought this, she turns back around toward her exit. But it was now gone. The once emptiness of a cave behind her was now a solid stone wall. With the torch just barely illuminating her surroundings, she was able to locate a branch off to the right she hadn't noticed before. Blindingly trusting it as the way out, she begins to mistakenly walk further and further into the cave. It was only until she got to a large cave opening she did notice how far away she had actually gone. But at the moment of realization, the torch was blown out. Plunged into complete darkness, Ebony sets her stuff down in search of the stolen and nearly broken flint and steel. As she lights the torch, she holds it out in front of her to see a new doorway. It was a solid metal door with a pressure plate to open it. The wall the door was connected to was entirely made of this strange, dark, reddish material, but it had a brick-like pattern lining every block. Her shadow danced on the wall, caused by the light of the flame, and for a split second, Ebony would have sworn she saw another shadow run behind her. But when she looked back to check, she was still completely alone. Taking a cautious step on the pressure plate, the door opens with a crash of the metal hitting the wall, echoing through the silent cave. Taking a tentative step inside the door, it slammed shut behind her. In front of her was a small platform that held two small altars. The altars seemed to be made mostly of obsidian, with a red cloth laid over top. The corners were crested with gleaming diamonds that shined brighter when Ebony sets the torch down in the center of the room. They looked like the base of your typical enchantment tables that some rich folks have because they traded with a witch. But instead of a book floating above the altar, there were instead two blood-red gems shaped like diamonds. Each had a red-tinted glow encasing the gem, and small black particles seemed to fall around them. Ebony was immediately drawn to them, almost as if fate was pulling the strings on her legs, urging her forward. Once in front of the altars, she reaches out with a shaky hand. She didn't know what was happening, what was going to happen, but she knew that this was what she needed. Gingerly, her fingertips grazed the red diamond, and a burst of black energy erupts from the gem, knocking Ebony to the ground. Furiously blinking, she looks around the room to see what had happened. One of the two diamonds were now missing, and Ebony noticed in the far off corner was a man standing there just watching her. She scans the room once more to try and see where the diamond could have gone, when she then hears the echoing sound of someone clapping, very slowly. Snapping her attention back toward the man, he steps out of the shadowed corner, slowly clapping his hands, never breaking the eye contact he held with Ebony.
Good job, dearie. You did great finding your way here. Of course, I had to help a little along the way, but you made it here all the while. And now, you belong to me.
I'm sorry, what?
Ebony snaps as she bolts up in a standing position. She sways for a minute as the blood rushes through her head.
Don't tell me the curse made you lose your ability to listen, because then this is going to be much harder.
Curse? What do you mean, curse? This was the mysterious treasure that can heal people, right?
Correct you are, but yet also incorrect. You see, you no longer are able to die. You are my eternal servant now. Too bad it had to be you. I was hoping for a stronger guard, or at least someone with some remote skill. But I guess you being a young child can have its advantages.
That's not happening.
I beg your pardon?
I'm not your stupid little servant. Now release this curse from me. I did nothing wrong.
You see, that's where you're wrong.
What?
You have done many things wrong, especially if we are talking about in the eyes of Notch. You've stolen, vandalized buildings, and assaulted numerous people, nearly killing one, I might add. Now, is that really what someone would call not wrong?
I
know everything there is to know about you, Ebony. So, make this easier for yourself and just submit to your fate. You touched the diamond, so now you can have the diamond with you forever.
You can't make me do anything.
Ebony then feels herself flying backward into a wall and crumbling to the ground. Looking up, she sees the man's eyes glowing red and his arm raised up at her.
Doubt me again, little girl, and you will suffer more than just a gentle push to the wall.
Slowly getting up on shaking knees, Ebony keeps her gaze down low, not daring to look at this monster in the eyes.
Oh, chin up, darling. We're going to be spending eternity together. Might as well make the most of it, right? Oh, and just so you can have the horrifying information of who I am Andrew, but you will call me Master.
I don't care who you are. You just stole my life.
Incorrect. I just gave you life. Specifically, a longer life. And you'll learn to care about who I am. More importantly, fear who I am.
Suddenly, a dark corridor opens up, leading down to what seemed like nothingness.
How about you rest up? We have a long day tomorrow.
With that said, he not so gently guides her down the hallway and into the room she would call home for the rest of her life. A few days had passed, and Kyle had naturally healed from his wounds and had built up his strength to help around the camp. No one had heard from Ebony in several days, but Kyle falsely reassured them that she would be fine, and back soon. He wasn't so sure himself, and grew more worried with each passing hour. Many of the kids had gone into town to try and get some food, but also to gain information on where Ebony was. All they came back with was wanted posters with her face drawn on it. All that Kyle knew now was that she was being hunted by the guards, and the last time anyone had seen her was when she'd grabbed extra supplies, like the only flint and steel, and left into the forest. Back with Ebony, life was miserable. Andrew had been making her train every day for hours and hours on end, with no breaks and little to no food or water. During one of these numerous sessions, Ebony had collapsed onto the floor in pure exhaustion.
Get up! I didn't say we were done.
Please, no.
I said get up!
Andrew delivers a strong kick into her empty gut, causing her to heave and curl up more on the ground.
You think that you can defy me? You are worthless, pathetic, nothing. We are only going to be able to change that if we knock the weakness out of you. Now, up!
Slowly, Ebony peels herself up from the ground and comes to a fighting stance.
Better. Now, do exercise 12 again.
Kyle had given up on the false hope and became restless. Grabbing nothing but a sharpened stick, he journeys into the forest with no warning or goodbye. Scanning the ground and trees, he searches for any trace that would tell him that Ebony had been there. Nothing. He traveled further and further into the forest, finding himself lost in the ever-growing darkness of the canopy. Now wandering around aimlessly, Kyle trips over a root or fallen branch and takes a head-first dive down a hill. First it was small pebbles and pieces of grass under his back, until he finds himself at the bottom, lying on hard, solid stone. Groaning, he staggers back up and lets his eyes adjust to the new environment. Up ahead of him was a cave with a small hint of light coming from around the corner. It flickered like a flame of hope and filled Kyle's heart.
That has to be Ebony. She had been camping out in this cave, and this is her fire.
He starts into a slow jog down the cave, toward the glowing light, until he comes to a screeching halt when he rounds the corner. He hadn't found Ebony. Instead, he found a line of floating torches leading further and further into the cave. With overly optimistic hope blooming through him, he goes further into the cave, following the dancing lights that never seemed to end. Finally, Kyle finds himself in front of an open metal door that was surrounded by a dark reddish brick-like material.
Please stop, please!
Ebony's voice comes echoing out of the building, and all of Kyle's thoughts of caution flew out the window.
Ebony? Ebony!
Kyle bolts into the room, only to hear the sudden clang of the metal trap door closing behind him. But he didn't care. He was in search of his sister, and nothing was going to distract him from that. In the room, Kyle saw 2 altars, with only one holding a blood-red diamond. He also saw a dark corridor that led away from the room.
Sing, please will not sing. Now move it!
The voice came booming down the hallway, making the walls in the room shake. Shortly after, a figure comes bursting through the shadowy corridor and falls to the ground in front of him. The figure on the ground was shaking and their heavy breathing was bouncing off all the walls, echoing in Kyle's head.
When will you learn? You can't escape me.
Andrew says darkly as he emerges from the corridor.
Ebony?
The figure slowly raises its head to look up at Kyle, while Kyle's eyes gleam with happiness that he found his sister. Her eyes held nothing but despair.
No, run! You can't be here! Get out! Hurry!
Ebony grabs onto her brother from the ground, using him to claw her way to a standing position. She starts to push Kyle toward the door, but before she can move him more than an inch, the doorway is completely sealed by the dark reddish brick.
You can't keep him here! Let him go!
Why would I let him go when he would be the perfect sparring partner? Unless you want him to turn into a mere punching bag. I would be more than happy to string him up by his wrists for you.
No!
Kyle stood there in utter shock and confusion. He couldn't move. He couldn't speak. It felt like the room was slowly enclosing around him. He should be happy, or fighting for his sister, but all he can do there is stand, frozen.
I'll stop trying to escape. I'll stay here with you and do more training. Just let him go, please!
This snaps Kyle from his trance. Wait, leave? Without her? That wasn't going to happen.
I'm not leaving you.
Kyle shouts, gaining the attention of the other 2 in the room. He quickly grabs Ebony and pulls her into a protective hug.
Kyle, you can't play the hero right now. You need to go.
Not happening. You aren't leaving with him. I'm going to make sure this man doesn't hurt you anymore.
Is that a promise?
Suddenly, Kyle feels himself being lifted in the air and ripped from Ebony. He feels himself flying back and crashing against the wall.
Let this be your first lesson, boy. Don't make promises you can't keep.
Ebony limps over to him and slowly helps him off the ground.
I think I'll keep you around, Kyle. You could become very useful to me.
I won't let that happen. You're going to let him go.
Where is this new spark of confidence coming from? Is it him? Because if that's so, then I'm most definitely keeping him around to keep your, mortal high.
He isn't even cursed by you, so you can't control him.
Oh, but I can control you.
With that said, Ebony feels her entire body heat up as if her body was engulfed in flames. Letting out an agonizing shriek, she was brought down instantly to the ground into a shaking and shivering mess.
What are you doing to her?
Showing her where she belongs, on the ground begging for mercy.
Ebony lets out another blood-curdling scream while writhing on the ground in pain.
Stop hurting her. She didn't do anything wrong.
Oh, but she did everything wrong, starting with trying to protect you.
Andrew then brings his other hand up, and she begins to rise into the air while still in her curled and shaking position.
We do not pity or help anyone. Those that do are too weak to protect themselves and deserve nothing but death.
I said stop.
Only you can make this pain stop, Kyle.
Andrew says lowly as another scream erupts from Ebony's throat.
I'll do it.
Do what exactly?
I'll take her place. Just stop hurting her and let her go.
An interesting proposal.
Ebony's body then crashes to the ground with a hard thud, and she lays there, seemingly lifeless. Kyle tries to run toward her body, but is knocked back by a wall of energy.
No, no, no. I stopped hurting her. Now take a hold of that diamond up on the altar, and she'll be free to go.
Without a single shred of hesitation, Kyle marches up to the altar.
No.
Ebony's broken voice calls out, but it was too late. Kyle had just barely touched the diamond, and the same black energy erupts from its center, and Ebony watches in slow motion as the diamond permanently implants itself into her brother. Standing from the ground, Kyle stands strong, staring up at Andrew.
Now let her go.
Andrew just grins and says,
Was that part of the agreement?
Yes, it was. Now let her go.
I don't recall. Oh well, I guess now I have 2 servants.
You lied.
Kyle makes a lunge at Andrew with his sharpened stick, but only finds himself floating in the air. He's then dropped and then lifted repeatedly on the ground before he's thrown to the side of the room with a thunderous crack as he hits the wall.
Kyle, no.
Take him to your room. I've had enough fun for today.
Andrew smirks at the two before disappearing down the corridor. Ebony stumbles and crawls over to her brother's limp body. Tears begin to stream down Ebony's face as she hugs him.
What were you thinking? Now we're both his puppets.
I couldn't leave you here alone.
I'd rather you be alone than know you're stuck here because of me.
I'd rather be here with you. You know why? Because that's what family is for.
The two give each other small smiles through their tears and engulf each other in a giant bone-crushing hug.
We're going to get through this. Together.
As a family.
They help each other up from the ground, and they disappear down the hallway. Hundreds of years pass, but neither of them suffer from aging. But they do suffer from the wrath of Andrew. After his death, Brian took the reins and picked up where his father left off, forever cursed to do their master's bidding. No hope whatsoever of having their souls fly. Two twins, cursed together for the rest of eternity.